Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to Future Dimensions 360. As you guys know, in our last tutorial, we had fixed up an example to learn render props. Why we need render props is because of code duplication. We will be removing the duplication of the code with the help of render props. Let's go ahead and try to create a new component in which I will try to learn the basics of render props, that is user.js. RCE class component. Inside this div, I will say it's future dimensions 360. I'll just remove this export class from here. I'll try to import this user here inside my app.js component. Let me go to the browser and show you the future dimensions 360 is appearing here. What if I will pass this future dimensions 360 as props? Let me cut this one and I'll say this dot props dot name, and I'll pass the name from here from the user name equals to like this. Still I am able to see future dimensions 360. So until here, it's very normal. We had done it before as well. What if I will make the prop as function? How it will work? Let me show you guys how it will work. I'll just make an arrow function for props. Sorry. I'll just make an arrow function for the props and see here it's gone. Now future dimensions 360 is not appearing. How it will appear when I'm calling, I should not call the parameter, I should not call the variable, I should call the function with parentheses. Now I'll move to browser, I'll see future dimensions 360 is appearing. So this is a way like how you can pass a function as a props from your parent component to your child component. What if I want is logged in? I'll say as a parameter in this function that I passed. If is logged in is true, pass future dimension 360, otherwise pass show guest. This one I am calling from here from user component. I should pass this. For example, if I will pass it as true, you will see future dimensions 360. If I will pass it as false, you will see guest text appearing there. So the so now you can see like from my child component, I can pass some sort of variable or some sort of you can say some sort of decision variable or something that you can receive in your parent component. On the base of that, you can spawn some sort of text. So let me show you what actually render props is. The term render props refers to a technique for sharing code between components using props whose value is function. It's a kind of technique in which you are going to share a code by using functions, a type of props whose values are function. How? Let me go ahead and show you how you can share a code with the help of props. In the component, I will create a counter.js file. I'll say RCE class component. Inside class component, I will I'll just do one thing. I'll just make it similar to each other. I'll do just one thing, that is I'll copy the functionality of counter from my child component from my hover counter and click counter. Both I will remove the functionality and I will put it here in my new component that I had created. Okay, now what I have to do, I have to call here in the return method inside the render. There is a div. I'll call div. Inside div, I have to call what? I have to call a method that will be passed from my app.js. I'll call the name of that method is render. This render will not affect actually the you can say the lifecycle method or any by built-in method. Like for example, if I'll change this from name to render, it will still work. I will save it. I'll go to user. I'll just change it to render, and I'll not save other files. I'll take you to browser. You can see still it's working. If I'll make it to true, it's still working. Future dimensions 360. So I'll just remove the other files from my app.js. Close this one. Let me remove the actual files. Here I will pass the counter now, and this is what we have to do. Now in the render method, what I have to do, I have to tell like to the React or to the parent component, hey, what I will do is from my component, I will pass you two functionalities. One of them is counter this dot state dot state dot counter from the state, and this dot increment counter. I'll give you two functionalities. One is counter and the other one is increment counter. Take these two variable as a parameter to you and do whatever you want, render whatever you want. What my app component will do, I'll go into the app component. I'll try to import counter here, and what I will do here is I will say render is the function that I have to pass here. See in my counter, I am this dot render, props dot render. In the render, I will say what you have to do is you have to take the function. This function, what it will take counter as a parameter and increment counter as a parameter. So these two things as a parameter it will take, and it will call the click counter 2 as a param, that one, the click counter 2 what we had created in the return it as a child to counter. And what I have to do here is I have to pass two props to the same two props I have to pass to it. That is, for example, I'll say I'll make a braces, round braces here to make my code more readable. So yeah, this is the render function, and in the inside that render props I will pass a function. That function will take two variables as a parameter. One is counter, the other one is increment counter, and return the click counter 2 in result, and pass the child these two parameter as props to click counter. Okay, so counter, and the second one is increment counter. So increment counter. And these two we can receive in click counter 2 as a props, this dot props counter and increment counter. Both of them will be received as a props. Now I don't need this here, it will work. Same thing, I have to do it here as well. I'll copy this one here, I'll paste it here, and I have to remove this keyword from the increment counter in hover counter. And here inside this, I have to copy paste this counter again, and this time instead of click counter 2, I have to call hover counter 2. So let me go to the browser and show you guys. See, my hover counter works, my click counter also works. So this time I am not duplicating any code, I am just sharing the functionalities with the help of render props. Let me explain code for you. I came into my app.js file. In app.js file, I am calling a counter component. This counter component is taking render props as a parameter. Render is what? It's a prop that is taking a function, and it is responsible of UI. Actually, this counter component, what it is saying, it has two different functionalities. That one is counter and the other one is increment counter. It's taking these two functionalities and calling the function that we are passing from the parent component and passing these two functionalities as a parameter to it. So these two functionalities that we are passing as a parameter to it, we are receiving in this callback that we are passing in a props. And then once you receive these as a callback, you will take it and pass it to your click counter, hover counter, and any XYZ counter you have it in your application. Either it's 10, 100, or 1000, any counter. Instead of duplicating the code, you can use the same code again and again as much time as you want. This is the one way. The second way of doing a counter is, instead of passing the props with specific name render, you can pass them as a children as well. How? You have to just close the tag here, and this one should be the closing tag for counter also. You can say, and this functionality is a child functionality now. What you have to do here is this dot props dot children, children. So this is what you have to do. This is another way of rendering the props. So instead of giving a specific name, you can just pass inside the render function, sorry, inside the body of your two component tags, opening and closing tag of your component, you can pass the functionality. It will still work. You guys can see it's still working. So these are the two exact methods to use render props. This is how you can do render props in React.js to overcome the code duplication. I hope you guys understand it. Please don't forget to like and subscribe our channel. In case of any question, you can reach us in our mailbox and you can comment us also. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.